Today's video focuses in on the circulatory system. So what is the circulatory system? The circulatory system transports resources to the cells, for example, nutrients from the digestive system and oxygen from the lungs. Two biggies. What else does it do? Well, it transports waste away from the cells. A couple of biggies. Carbon dioxide gets taken to the lungs and urea get taken to the kidneys. So that's the main job. It's a circulatory system. It moves things around. It's the subway system. Moves things all throughout the body. Moving on to the next slide in 3, 2, 1. So some measures regarding our blood. 3 common measures. The first one is the pulse, which is how often the heart beats. We report it per minute. We usually don't time it for a full minute. What we normally do is 10 or 15 seconds and then we multiply. You're going to need calculators or your phone to do that tomorrow in class. Systolic pressure. This is the pressure that is exerted against your artery walls when your heart is contracting. And the part of your heart that contracts is the ventricles. We'll look at a diagram in class where we see that. And your diastolic pressure is the pressure against those same artery walls when the heart is relaxing, because your blood pressure is, or your blood is always under pressure inside your body. We're going to be taking all 3 of these measures for you tomorrow in class, so you have a quick idea of what your numbers are. It's a good idea to have these as a teenager so that you move forward as an adult knowing in your teenage years, when you're presumably fairly healthy, what the numbers are so you know if they change as time goes on. Moving on to the next slide. So the different systems or parts of the system for our circulatory system, we're going to start off with the blood itself. So the blood is connective tissue that moves throughout your entire body. And there are 4 major parts. It consists of the red blood cells, which carry oxygen. And when there's oxygen attached, they're a nice red color. And when there isn't oxygen attached, they're more of a blue color. And you can sometimes see that if you look on the inside of your wrist, because there will be some spots here which look a little bluer in color. And those are where blood does not have oxygen in it. If you cut yourself, the blood comes out of your body and is exposed to lots of oxygen, which is why it looks red then. We also have white blood cells that fight infection. We have platelets, which are involved in clotting blood. And the last part is the plasma, which is kind of a straw or tan-colored liquid, where it moves all the other cells around, plus it contains all the dissolved materials. So that's our blood. Moving on to the next slide. Next, we're going to talk about the heart. So the heart is a mixture of all 4 types of tissues. So we've got cardiac muscle tissue, like you'd expect. There's nervous tissue in order to get the timing right. There's epithelial tissues, which line the inside and the outside, and connective tissue, providing all the support for making that heart muscle work fine itself. Now, the purpose is to pump blood through all the blood vessels by muscle contraction. So the heart muscle squeezes and it shoves the blood out of the heart. There are 4 chambers in a mammal heart, like us. Frogs have 3 chambers. Fish, I believe, have 2 chambers. So different types of creatures have different numbers of chambers, but ours are 4. 2 of those are responsible for collecting blood and sending it to the lungs so we get oxygen, because oxygen is very important. And the other 2 are collecting the blood back from the lungs to send it on to the body. Moving on to the next slide. So now the last part are the blood vessels themselves that contain the blood, not counting the heart. So there are 3 types of vessels. And we normally start with the arteries, because this way we put them in alphabetical order. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. So arteries away, arteries away, start there. These happen to be fairly thick-walled chamber, or arteries are thick-walled because they have to withstand the pressure put out by the heart. As the arteries get further and further from the heart, they get thinner and thinner and thinner, and eventually they turn into capillaries. Capillaries are the place where oxygen and nutrients are exchanged and waste and carbon dioxide enter back into the blood. These capillaries are 1 cell thick, so they're very, very thin to allow easy transport. That also means they're fairly weak, so anytime that you get a bruise, it's typically because a lot of those capillaries have broken and a little bit of blood is leaking out inside your body, but it's close enough to the surface of your skin that we can see it. Lastly, we have veins. So you see A, C, and V, arteries, capillaries, and veins. They are in alphabetical order if you take them from the heart. The veins carry blood back to the heart because they've already had to drop the pressure from those arteries in order to not break the capillaries. They're fairly thin-walled, and some of them, especially the ones down in your legs, will have valves so that as the blood gets pushed back towards the heart, the valves catch them so that every time something is pushing them, usually some other muscle happens to push them towards your heart, they push up a ways and then they stop, and they push up a little more and then they stop, and it just keeps moving back towards the heart. And then it goes through the heart, then goes through this order again. Our last slide is for your information, so don't write this one down. What we're going to do in class is the following. I've got a handout for you with some diagrams to show the different parts of the heart as well as the rest of the body for how some of this exchange occurs. So we're going to do some coloring on those. And yes, I have pencil crayons, but if you've got your own, that's great. We're also going to be doing a lab. There's 2 parts of the lab. One part is where we're going to be using a blood pressure monitor to check your blood pressures and your pulse. The type we're going to use fits on the wrist. So as if you have a short sleeve shirt or a long sleeve shirt that you can just push up, it should work on the wrist just fine. If it doesn't work on your wrist, I have the other style that goes over your arm up here. So if you are wearing a short sleeve shirt, it can take off the sweater. That'll be great because that you cannot put over clothes. Neither of them go over clothes very well. The other thing is to wear some comfortable clothing because we are going to be having to move around a little bit for this lab. So let's avoid the high heels if we can. Thank you. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the disorders of the system. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. Thanks for watching.